How many dawns, chill from his rippling rest, the seagull's wing shall dip and pivot him, shedding white rings of tumult, building high over the chained bay water's liberty. Then, with inviolate curve, forsake our eyes, as apparitional as sails that cross some page of figures to be filed away, till elevators drop us from our day. I think of cinemas, panoramic slights, with multitudes bent towards some flashing scene, never disclosed, but hastened to again, foretold to other eyes on the same screen. And thee across the harbor, silver paced, as though the sun took step of thee yet left, some motion ever unspent in thy stride, implicitly thy freedom staying thee. Out of some subway scuttle, cell or loft, a bedlamite speeds to thy parapets, tilting there momentarily, shrill shirt ballooning, a jest falls from the speechless caravan. Down wall, from girder to street noon leaks, a ripped tooth of the skies acetylene. All afternoon the cloud-flown derricks turn, thy cables breathe the North Atlantic still. And obscure as that heaven of the Jews, thy guerdon, accolade thou dost bestow of anonymity time cannot raise. Vibrant reprieve and pardon thou dost show. O harp and altar of thy fury fused, how could mere toil align thy choiring strings? Terrific threshold of the prophet's pledge, prayer pariah, and the lover's cry. Again the traffic lights that skim thy swift unfractioned idiom, immaculate sigh of stars, beating thy path, condense eternity, and we have seen night lifted in thine arms. Under thy shadow by the piers I waited, only in darkness is thy shadow clear. The city's fiery parcels all undone, already snow submerges an iron year. O sleepless as the river under thee, vaulting the sea, the prairie's dreaming sod, unto us lowly as sometimes sweep, descend, and the curved ship lend a myth to God. Alright, now we're going to analyze the poem, and by the way, the poem is called The Bridge to Brooklyn Bridge by Hart Crane. Fun fact about Hart Crane, he actually lived near the Brooklyn Bridge for a while, and he could see out his window the bridge from his apartment. Okay, now we're going to define some terms that are in the poem that'll be helpful to know. Tumult, a loud, confused noise, especially one caused by a large mass of people. Bedlamite, a lunatic or insane person. Parapets, a low protective wall along the edge of a roof, bridge, or balcony. Acetylene, which is a chemical compound widely used as fuel. Guerdon, a reward or recompense. Accolade, an award or privilege granted as a special honor or as an acknowledgement of merit. And pariah, which is an outcast. Alright, let's start. First stanza, how many dawns chill from his rippling rest, the seagull's wing shall dip and pivot him, shedding white rings of tumult, building high over the chained bay water's liberty. So, in this stanza, the outer scene around the bridge is getting described. So, it's talking about how this happens many times at many dawns. There's the water rippling against the bridge, and then there's the seagulls flying around, and also we see a juxtaposition between chained and liberty in the last stanza. And then next one, then with inviolate curve forsake our eyes, as apparitional as sails that cross, simile, some page of figures to be filed away till elevators drop us from our day. So this is kind of implying that it's such a sight that it's like massive and beautiful and totally different than what a lot of people have seen before, and it's something that most people will not forget until their death. And the next stanza, I think of cinemas, panoramic slights with multitudes bent towards some flashing scene, never disclosed but hastened to again, foretold to other time eyes on the same screen. So it's kind of relating it to the movies and the cinema, and it's flashy and new and big and industrial, and it's very impressive. And also, it's been around for 50 years, which implies that foretold to other eyes on the same screen kind of reflects that more than just the people of Hart's time have seen it. So many more people have seen it, and more people will for a long time, because we can assume that the bridge will stay there for a while. And next stanza, and thee across the harbor, silver paced, as though the sun took step of thee yet left, some motion ever unspent in thy stride, implicitly thy freedom staying thee. Alright, so once again, he's kind of describing the bridge and its massiveness and its impressiveness and its beauty. And also, we can tell from we've interpreted from the last line that implicitly thy freedom staying thee is reflecting that Crane's impressed with the bridge's freedom and just sheer presence to be itself and remain itself, because we've learned that he has self-esteem issues. Alright, next stanza. Out of some subway scuttle, cell or loft, a bedlamite speeds to thy parapets, tilting there momentarily, shrill shirt ballooning. A jest falls from the speechless caravan. From this, we've interpreted that somebody has committed suicide on the bridge, and unfortunately this is common and has been happening for many years. Next stanza. Down wall, from girder into street noon leaks. A ripped tooth of the skies a settlin'. All afternoon the cloud-flown derricks turn. Thy cables breathe the North Atlantic still. So this one we've kind of reflected that even though there's some sad and dark things happening around and there's like smoke from industrialness and everything, just like the bridge still stands and still breathes in the North Atlantic, which can also be reflected as like nature and the water. Alright, so I'm going to combine the next few stanzas together for time reasons. And obscure is that heaven of the Jews, thy guerdon. Accolade thou dost bestow, of anonymity time cannot raise. Vibrant reprieve and pardon thou dost show. O harp and altar of the fury fused, how could mere toil align thy choiring strings? Terrific threshold of the prophet's pledge, prayer, pariah, and the lover's cry. So in these two stanzas, we've interpreted it as he's relating the bridge to almost heavenly-like, and he also commends it for having this sense of anonymity, and like provides that for people, and we see that further expressed in the next stanza where he relates it to being a great threshold for the prophet's pledge, prayer, pariah, and lover's cry. And we remember that pariah means of an outcast, so it's like prayer of an outcast. And he's kind of relating it to as like heavenly and healing almost like. Right, so we're going to go on to the next stanza. Again, the traffic lights that skim thy swift unfractioned idiom, immaculate sigh of stars, beating thy path, condense eternity, and we have seen night lifted in thine arms. So he's talking about like the traffic lights upon the bridge, and he's talking about how they like bead your path as you're like they're making a path basically for you to follow down the bridge, and they're kind of guiding you on in life. And it kind of, the next stanza, like one of the lines, and we have seen night lifted in thine arms, kind of reflects that. Even though it's like darkness and stuff, there's still light, courtesy of the bridge and the traffic lights on the bridge. Alright, next stanza. Under thy shadow by the piers I waited, only in darkness is thy shadow clear. The city's fiery parcels all undone, already snow submerges an iron year. We can reflect that there's probably snow coming soon. And next stanza. Oh, sleepless as the river under thee, vaulting the sea, the prairie's dreaming sod, unto us lowliest sometimes sweet descent, and the curved ship lend a myth to God. Once again, he's talking about the bridge, and we can see that he's kind of relating the bridge to almost like a god, and he's kind of reflecting it as almost it's watching over everyone and looking over while everyone's in like on the ground or near the river in the shadows.
Now is the soapstone for Bridge to Brooklyn Bridge. Our speaker is Crane, or a third-person narrative describing the Brooklyn Bridge. The occasion would be Crane's obsession with the bridge, his love and compassion for it, just his admiration for it, really. The audience would be anyone who admires the bridge as much as he does. Our purpose would be reflecting on the bridge and its life, its beauty, everything it does for us in a daily life, and how wonderful it is. And the subject would be the Brooklyn Bridge, of course. Tone would be sympathy, compassion, fascination, and respect. And we said this because of how he describes the bridge and how he loves it. He loves it so much, and the detail he goes into describing it is wonderful. And yeah.